This box is marked Fragile. That can only mean one thing.
Fragile. It must be Italian.
Well, I think that says fragile, honey.
Oh, yeah.
The windows are here. Let's put them in. So the headliner's in minus the trim up at the top. Get that squared away. So next up is getting the windows out. Pretty straightforward taking them out. It's a little bit more work putting them in, but basically you just have to remove all the trim pieces along there. Got some screws that hold that in, and then for the most part the window just pops back in. I've already taken the trim out. You can see along the tops here. Did that when I took the old headliner out. So remove the final trim pieces. Label everything as we take it out, so you remember which window was which in order to size those up with the new windows that are going to go in. Then I'll clean this trim up and then just reinsert that. So yeah, shouldn't be too bad. Some of the screws get a little bit tough getting out of there, so we'll see how that goes. All right, let's get to work. And just like that, there's a window in your hands. So you can see I'm marking each window with some tape so I know which one it is. And then all the frame pieces, taking those out along with the hardware to mark those so I know where each piece goes back. For the strip screws that just don't want to come out, highly recommend these Van pliers. They have a bite, like a vampire, only better. All right, so these things are like the best invention ever. Like I said, they're called Van pliers. And if you look, they've got a lot of teeth. And they're great on a stripped out screw like this one here. Can't get the screwdriver in, it just turns and turns. But all you have to do is just get the tip of this thing to bite onto that screw. So even though this is a really thin screw, and it was all the way up in there tight, just a little bit, the very, very tip, that's all you got to do to get a hold of that screw, clamp it down, and then just start turning. And it's out. And you can see, right, there's not much of a head on that, so it's not much to grip. Got these off of Amazon, saw them on another YouTube channel. Van pliers. Fantastic, worth every penny. I think, I don't know, 30 bucks, 40 bucks, something like that. Great tool. All right, windows are out. So just need to clean up the inside, get all the remaining little pieces of window molding stuff out, clean up that all up, and then we'll use these windows to lay out as a template on the new windows, kind of mark what needs to be cut, not cut too much at first, do several test fittings on it till we get the size just about right, and then you just take some new of this, goes all the way around the edges of it, push it in, put the trim back in, new windows. How hard can it be? And you'll see this when they come, but special notes on this, store it somewhere in the dark and cool. And they say not to leave the protective paper on there for more than a month. But the caution on that is basically that if this gets exposed to sunlight, it can be very difficult to get this paper back off of there. The same with heat, so don't store it too long. So if you got a while to wait on your project, don't order it too far out. A couple weeks should do it, and then store it somewhere dark and cool. So you can see how they come. Each one's labeled, it's been wrapped. It's got your sticker for the logbook for each window that you're going to replace in the aircraft. So lay them out in protective paper. I'm going to leave most of that on while we trim so we don't scratch it. But here's the old one, the new one. Use this as a template and you get an idea how much trimming needs to be done. And let's take all this foam off of here. Just a little bit. You can see here along the edge, just a slight overlap there. And then if I line it up at the bottom, barely see it. It's maybe like 1/8 of an inch on the length. Yeah, about 1/8 of an inch there. And even less here going across the top. And in all actuality, that may fit. Before I do any trimming of it at all, I'll give it a test fit in the airplane. It may not need to be trimmed at all because there was some room when I took the windows out of the airplane. But as you can see, it's pretty minor, so probably just a belt sander and just kind of mark where we need to take it down, and then just kind of hold down on the belt sander, work along the edge, and then just keep test fitting it as you go. And then we'll put it in the airplane. So the moment has arrived to put the windows in the airplane. That's good news. Each window covered in this nice protective layer. So started stripping that around, just pulling it back from the edges, and doing some test fitting on that. First window I tried, it's not going to require any trimming, so that's great news. So you take this protective tape, that'll get pushed down around the edges, squeeze it down on both sides, goes all the way around the window, and then just press it up into place. I'll put the trim pieces around the bottom. That'll hold it tight against the window, and then we'll put a seal from the outside around the outside edge just to make sure no water gets inside the window frame from the outside. So yeah, I'll get started on this. You guys watch. If you got any comments, put them in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Let's go. So the tape's got a little adhesive layer on the one side, so you just peel that back. And then we'll work our way around it. So reading in the service manual, they recommend obviously using this tape that goes all the way around it, and then a sealant like I talked about, because this rubber here is probably about a 1/4 inch away from the actual opening of the window. So this protects the glass and allows the trim pieces that are metal to push this tight against the window opening. But you don't want any water to get down in between the window opening and where this is. And it's a pretty tight fit, so chances are small, but you want to keep all that out. So that's where putting the sealant on afterwards comes into play. And that's sticky tape. There's sticky tape. In fact, yeah, I'm going to start this side over again. Also, don't forget to save these stickers. You need those for the logbook entries. Alright, let's go see how it fits. Like a glove. Alright, fits in place good. So now just get the trim pieces, put screws in, put that around it. So the problem with thicker windows is sometimes the holes don't line back up again. I may have to drill some new holes. I was afraid of that. Also need better lighting in here, so let's go get a light. So as I figured, some of the pieces, because these windows are a couple, well, about 1/8 of an inch thicker than the original windows, some of the window trims, they're just not going to fit tight. So you just got to re-drill the holes. Checked in the service manual. They just want you to make sure that you're about 4 hole widths away from the original hole. So just shift the trim just a little bit to compensate for that. Re-drill the holes and keep moving along. Got to go slightly bigger. Didn't want to drill it too big. But that's just a tiny bit too small. Alright, 1 down, 5 to go. And here you can see I found a slightly better technique for putting the foam adhesive on. Hold the glass between your legs and just work your way around the edge there. A little bit less awkward than the way I was holding it on the first window. So far it's going fairly well. So far, it's only been a couple windows, but been able to get most of the trim pieces in there, even though the glass is a little bit thicker. as long as you can get it pushed and get the holes close to lined up enough to get a screw in there. As you torque it down, it kind of pulls it in there. So I've heard if you go with the thicker windows, 1/4 inch, it's a little bit tougher. That's why I'm with the 3/16. Figured it gave me another 1/8 of an inch, but more than likely the holes won't have to be all re-drilled. Three. Well guys, like I said, so far it's been going really well. Haven't had to trim any windows yet. This is the 4th one out of 6. Test fit was good. I got these windows from, I ordered them on Knots to You, and they ship from Great Lakes Aero. I think you can probably buy direct from them as well, probably the same price. Yeah, so good job to them. I'll leave a link in the description on that and everything else. Let me know if you've done this before. Let me know how it went for you. You know, where you got your windows from. How much trimming you had to do on your windows. Also, let me know if you used the 1/4 inch. Like I said, I went with the 3/16 of an inch because they had a note in there that basically said that the 1/4 inch can be more difficult sometimes. My guess on that was that just that thickness, you're going to have to re-drill all your holes for it. So far I've only had to re-drill 2 holes, so that's been good. Maybe 3. So that's nice. And that's kind of why I decided to stick with the 3/16. I didn't want to have to re-drill everything. I didn't know how much of a pain that might be. Probably wouldn't be too bad, but if you had to do it on every hole, it would kind of get old after a while. So 3/16 gives me an 1/8 of an inch more than I had on the original windows. And you can definitely, I mean, you can feel the difference. Yeah, it's should make a big difference, I think, on the soundproofing. And then, like I said, I went with the slightly gray tint on these, just to give it a little bit more shading, a little bit better UV, that good stuff. But yeah, so far so good. Trim's all in on these pieces. 3 down, 3 to go. So, but yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've done this before, what it was like for you. Let me know if you think I'm doing something wrong. Also, I guess while I'm sitting here, you know, if you guys are enjoying this content, give us a like. Appreciate that. Lots of other content on the site. The whole renovation's on here. If you haven't seen the other videos where we put the headliner in, there'll be obviously a carpet install, everything to come. Consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch all that future content. And share it with a friend. I'd appreciate that. Should be a video out there on why I bought this airplane, how I chose it, how I made the purchase. So if you haven't bought an airplane before, you're thinking about it, I can tell you what the process was that I went through, how that worked out. what kind of fun things I've done with the airplane so far, or what else I plan to do with it. All that good stuff's on the channel, so check us out. When you order the windows, they tell you which tape to get as well. It's pretty straightforward. It's just very sticky, so take your time with that. And I think one roll of the tape, I don't know, 75 feet or something like that. Should be enough to do all the windows, I think. I'm sure if it wasn't, they'd probably let you know. I was a little concerned about putting the tape on, that it was going to take up a lot of extra space, because like I said, I dry fit the windows, and they fit good. A little bit of extra room in there. But then I was afraid when I put the tape on, maybe that would take up that extra space around the edge, and then I'd have wished I'd have trimmed it. But yeah, this compresses down to pretty much nothing once you put it in there. So if it fits in there pretty well without the tape, I think it'll fit in there pretty well with the tape. You know, the tape is just there so that when the metal trim pushes against the metal frame, it doesn't put any stress on the plastic itself. Keep that from getting scratched or cracked. But it compresses down super thin. Always good to label everything. Believe me, label everything when you take this apart, because you'll never remember where everything went. Only 2 to go. Moment of truth. Will this thing fit? Please fit well. Don't require trimming. Please, please, please. And everybody says, no. Alright. That figures. Not only the biggest window, but the most expensive window. And of course, I have to trim it. Mama. Let's see. A little there. A little here. It goes up if it'll fit better. Alright, let's take a little off the back. Let's see what that does. Alright, so took the window out. This was the only one so far that needed a little bit of trimming. This is the main window. Just used a little handheld sander. Took me about 20 minutes, I guess. Several passes, several test fits, till it finally felt like it was going to fit well. And now it fits in there nice. Obviously, you don't want to take too much off. Also wanted to leave a tiny bit of room on the sides for that sort of trim tape to go on there. I think I've got just enough now on there. So we'll tape it up and stick it in here. Hopefully, the amount I trimmed off is not going to be equal to the thickness of this. Otherwise, I have to rip it all off again. Well, at least the sides. Top and bottom had plenty of room. It was just mostly one end, this end, that needed to be brought in, and this end, just from here to here, had to be sanded a little bit straighter because it came out that way just a little bit too much. Frame comes out that way, but not quite the same amount, so it was very close though. 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8, very close. So yeah, could have used a belt sander. There's one in the shop next door, but decided it was such a small amount that I needed to do. I'll just give it a shot with my little handheld sander and see how that went. It went okay, so I think that was good enough. Moment of truth. Yes! Success. Sweet. Oh, I was terrified I was going to have to take that back out and do it again. Oh, hallelujah, Christmas Day. Alright. Nice. Alright, so let's get the trim up now. Bada boom. Don't fall. I'm sitting with my head on it so it doesn't fall when I take my trim off. Always take pictures as you go along so you remember how it went back together. Yes, I know how the windows go, but like some have these little brackets. And I need to make sure I have the right number of brackets in the right spots. Those are clips that hold the side panels on. Alright, it is 4:30, been out here for 6 hours. I was gone for a little bit, then I came back, so 5 hours. Anyway, almost 5 o'clock. I've got 4 windows in. 5th window needs 2 more pieces of trim. My patience is pretty much shot though at this point, and these screws are being a pain in the butt because some of them have very, very, very small heads, and they don't want to bite. So I'm going to get some more to replace some of them with that aren't cooperating. And basically call it a day for now, and come back tomorrow, knock this out, have that window left, and then the window in the door, and yeah, then the windows are done from the inside, and then we'll just the sealant around the outside, and these windows are done. Sweet. That means we can move on to the carpet, and man, hopefully soon the rest of the interior will arrive for the side panels and seats, and yeah, can get back in the air. Alright, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Alright, so we're back here for day 2 of getting the windows installed. Almost done. Got a couple pieces of trim to put on the pilot window here, and then we've just got the passenger window to install, and then the inside part of that is done. Then we'll do the caulking around the outside of that. I'll show you how we do that, and I'll show you how that looks in the service manual as well. So yesterday I did talk about where I got the windows from. I placed the order on Knots to You, and they actually ship from the manufacturer, which is Great Lakes Aero. And when I bought the windows, I thought I was being smart, so I went ahead and just double checked to make sure I wasn't paying more money to get them from a third party than where they were actually coming from when I realized that. And so I guess one mistake I made is not to check the prices on all of them. I looked at the Pilot window, which is the most expensive window because it's got the little vent cut out on it. And those prices matched exactly the same, so I figured, well, I'm buying some other stuff from Knots to You, so I'll just order them all together. However, went back to check last night and realized that the other windows, all the smaller side windows, they're actually cheaper if you do it direct from Great Lakes Aero. So links in the description. Check them out. It looks like they also had some more options in terms of the tinting on the windows if you get them direct from Great Lakes Aero. So I opted for the gray tint, but it looks like on the Great Lakes Aero website you can actually, there's a couple different shades of, I guess, the gray tint. There's a darker shade. Anyway, could have saved a couple $100 on the back windows. Like I said, the Pilot window and I think the passenger window maybe were the same. I think the windshield is the same on either one, but check for yourself. I will say, like I think I mentioned yesterday, before I left last night, I did a test fit on the passenger window, which is in the door, and that's a perfect fit. So out of the 6 that I ordered from Great Lakes Aero, the only one that I had to do any trimming on at all was this one here on the Pilot side. And like I said, that was pretty minimal. It was about maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so. It was enough that you could just use a sander and just take that edge down. Took my time with it. Obviously, you don't want to take off too much because you can't put it back once it's gone. So it took a few passes, maybe about 20 minutes, so multiple passes and test fitting it, and that came out. But, so my hat's off to the guys at Great Lakes Aero. You did a really nice job. The windows were packed well. The fit was nearly perfect on all of them. So yeah, great job to them. So if you're looking at windows, I can highly recommend them. No, they're not sponsored. Just very happy with the product that was delivered to me and how it was delivered. Also, I think it was only maybe a couple of weeks from the time I ordered until the windows came. So yeah, very nice job. All right, so like I said, I've just got 2 more pieces of trim to put on this window. I've got to drill out one spot here, not because the frame didn't fit, but there's an old half of an old screw that's stuck in there, so I got to drill that out. So I'll get to that, and then we'll get the outside window done. And then after that, I'll show you how we do the sealant around the outside. So yeah, going good so far. Let's get to work. So just got to show you this part right here because it's really satisfying. So just put in the new Pilot window, and there's the vent window for it. And look how thick this part is here that holds it on. It's a super nice tight seal. Look at that. Nice new seal. You can see how thick the glass is here. Much thicker than the original stuff. That is going to be a nice, quiet, tight seal. Very happy about that. 5 down, 1 to go. Let's go outside. All windows installed. Let's take this down. Alright, windows are done all from the inside. So now I just got to go outside. We'll tape that off and set up to do the caulking around the outside. This next step is oh so very satisfying. All right, so in this step, we're basically masking off an area on the outside of the windows. And we'll put the window seal. We'll just basically get brushed on right in that gap all the way around the windows. Then you pull this out and you'll have a nice tight seal. It'll keep any water from getting down in there, any moisture or anything like that, getting down in there and corroding the airplane. So we'll get the rest of the windows all trimmed out and then we'll brush that on. Stuff that I'm using here is kind of a rubbery 2-part epoxy type mixture that I got from my A&P. I'll put a link in the video description below of the product that I used. But as you can see, it just kind of brushes on here. It's like brushing on tar, basically. It cures pretty fast, so you got to kind of do it in small mixtures and then work with it pretty quick. And then it'll cure pretty quick around that window there. As you can see, I also added another layer of painter's tape in addition to the 2 thin green ones that I had there. I just wanted to make sure I didn't get this stuff on my window. I did get a few drops here and there. It comes off really easy once it dries because, like I said, it turns into a rubber once it cures. So you let it sit for maybe an hour or so, and then it's time to peel that tape off before it sets 100%. You wouldn't want to let it set overnight or you're going to have kind of a mess when you take it off. So after about an hour, it's cured enough that you can go ahead and pull the tape off of there, and then you should have a pretty nice line on your edge. So here's a good look at the final product. So you can see I went a little bit onto the metal and then down into the glass there. I think you can get away with doing a really tight edge at the very, very edge of the metal and really just have it go between the glass and that edge without overlapping. I went ahead and overlapped it just to be, I guess, a little bit more overcautious with it. Got to clean up a little bit of stuff here along the edges. That'll come down. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. It gives it kind of a nice little border. And that'll definitely keep any moisture from ever seeping down in that area. If you like the video, if you like the information, please give us a thumbs up on the channel. Consider subscribing so you can see all the future content. We'll see you in the next video.